Okay, everyone, good evening. Thank you for coming. Tonight's shir, first of all, tonight's shir, I want to first wish a very happy birthday to our dear friend Yoel Peso. His birthday is going to be on the 6th of Kislev, that's tomorrow night. I want to wish him a wonderful, wonderful good year with boundless, endless, and infinite blessings, like it says this week in the parsha, Faratzta. You will break all boundaries. Yamav Akedma to the east, to the west, and to the east, to the Tzafoin of Anegma to the north and to the south. So Hatzlacha without an end, and come pouring down, and may in everything that you want and everything that you need, a wonderful, good year. Would like to mention a special yid, Izzy Bestamsky and Eti Bestamsky are dedicating tonight's class to a special yid. His name was Rabbi Reuven Milner, who was close to the Bestamsky family and before the war, and he passed away. Was killed in the Holocaust in the camps. And the yahrzeit they have is the 6th of Kislev, also tomorrow night. May this be a great zchus for his neshama. I want to take a moment to invite everyone to join Bezrat Hashem in 2 weeks from tonight, Monday night. It's going to be the 19th of Kislev. So there's going to be a amazing, special 19th of Kislev Farbrengen. And that is going to be here at Maayon. And it's going to be a women's event this time. An exclusive women's event. Be'ezrat Hashem, this week, this Yutas Kislev, 19th of Kislev. It's going to be called, or it's called, Journeys to Chassidus, in which we were highlighting those women who discovered Chassidus in their life at a later point in their life and couldn't get enough of it. Joining us over here will be my younger sister, Gitti Rappaport, telling her story of her journey to Chassidus, as she followed her brother. I didn't impose anything on anybody, but she did, and she has an amazing story. So, it's going to be a great evening. Monday, 7 o'clock, December, I think, December 16th. Monday, December 16th. Over here, for women at Maayon, musical event. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be very special. Also want to mention that there are many ways to follow Maayon Yisroel on social media. You can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Maayon Yisroel YouTube channel, where anytime there is a class going on at Maayon, you will get a notification ding in your YouTube saying there's a class. And then you might decide to listen, and you might have a moment of light, a special moment of light through the amazing teachings of Chassidus that are taught over here. So do this now if you can, when you're listening. If you're not yet subscribed, to subscribe either to Facebook, to YouTube, or all the other good ways of listening into these classes. Thank you. Okay, now we're ready to start tonight's class. So, it's a very, very exciting time. We've been talking about from the beginning of the year that we hit a powerful year. We're in an unbelievable year, and therefore we can't be sleepy. We can't be sleepy. And I'm giving this class to wake up from my drowsiness. Because sometimes it's precisely when we hit the most potent moments, we become sleepy and we miss it. So we can't miss it. We can't fall asleep this year. We have to be fully engaged, fully involved electrified, because the energy of the year is the energy of number 8, 5780. 8 represents transcendence, the infinite. I discussed it at the beginning of the year, but I'm touching again upon the subject especially as we enter the month of Kislev, because in the month of Kislev, although it is the 9th month, since Nisan, not the 8th, but the main holiday that we celebrate in Kislev is going to be Hanukkah, and Hanukkah is number 8, the 8 days of Hanukkah. It's the one Yom Tov that is a slam dunk 8. And that's why it encapsulates within it the power of the miracle. Hanukkah is the Yom Tov celebrating miracles, the miracle, because miracles are associated with number 8, because miracles come from, obviously, beyond nature. Nature is 7, so 8 is miracles. So when we enter into the month of miracles, we can tap the miracles. So the question I ask tonight, how can every single one of us access that energy and bring miracles into our lives? If it's such an amazing year, obviously the biggest miracle is the miracle of Mashiach and the complete conversion of darkness to light, there's everything in the world now that should happen. There was never such an auspicious, powerful time for the Geula to manifest, for the Geula to take hold. It should happen, it could happen, and we could make it happen. But in addition to that, how do we bring the miracles into our lives for all that we need and all that we want in every aspect of our life? How do we tap? And I mean really get the miracles pumping. Get the miracles pumping in a really big way. The answer to that is we need to be a miracle. If we are predictable, then we're not going to get miracles, okay? So we need to get out of our habits and predictable behaviors in a good, holy way. We got to be like unbelievable. When we all become unbelievable, then we have unbelievable things happening around us. So it's getting out of the daily grind and repetition. We can work through our lives in a repetitive manner and just flow with who I was yesterday. That's what I'm going to be tomorrow. Meet me in a couple of years from now. I'll be a little more sluggish because I'm aging a little bit. But other than that, nothing much changed. That's not the way it works. A Jew's got to be this firepower. And a Jew is here in the world to break the norm. It's all of our people, all of our heroes from the earliest of days are those who change things. We got to change. We got to break out. We got to make the impossible possible. That's what a Jew is. Making the impossible possible. And it begins in our daily living. And what would like to do in today's class is to discover it in this week's parsha and take a lesson from this week's parsha of where we can tap into that miracle. And the lesson has to be a two-pronged lesson. Number one, the lesson is anyone, even if you find yourself in the very, very, very beginning of stages in your spiritual climb, even if you're looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, oh my gosh, I haven't even begun to be a Jew. I haven't even begun to activate my soul. I haven't even begun to start studying, learning, elevating, I didn't even start yet. I'm just at the very first rung. What we have to realize, we have the ability to break and touch the infinite without turning over the world at all. It's within reach of every single one of us, even when we are at the bottom of the ladder. And then the other side of the lesson has to be that even those who have attained the highest levels of connection to Hashem, even those that have reached to the peaks of self-refinement, of elevation, of spiritual development, also have the challenge and the need to completely break free from the definitions that they define themselves, from that very, very lofty state, and reach for the infinite, because they too, if they don't do that, remain defined in the definitions of nature. So it's a double lesson. The one all the way at the bottom has it within his or her ability to tap the miracle, and the one all the way at the top can also be stuck in nature, although they might be very holy, but a naturally holy being. And that's not it. The constant need of redefining ourselves continuously. That's where it's at. That's Hanukkah, that's the month of Kislev, and that's this entire year, 5780. Break out, be a trailblazer. Get out of yourself, get out of the limitations and boundaries. The nature of your body and the nature of your soul. So where are we going to find that in the parsha? Well, this is the parsha of breaking boundaries. Hashem promises Yaakov Avinu, Ufaratzta yom avaked matzafoin vanegma. I mentioned it in the blessing in the beginning of the class today when we gave the dedication. Ufaratzta means blast open the very boundaries of time and space. And that's the energy of Mashiach. Mashiach is a blaster. Mashiach is the one who breaks the boundaries. He's called Peretz, Paratzta. There is no borders, there are no boundaries, and there's never ever satisfaction. There's always another record to break. There's always a higher level to reach. Reaching and reaching and reaching for the infinite. If we can only tap that, then we are living a godly existence. Or else, we're living a time-space, finite, rotting existence. That's it. There's really no choice. There's not much to it. We can either just be a disintegrating being, or we can transcend ourselves and touch that infinite. And when we're really alive, that's what we're doing. So where do we find that in the parsha? Where do we find this transcendence in the parsha? Another interesting thing that we'll explore in tonight's class is that if you take a look at these parshios, Vayeitzei, and next week's parsha, Vayishlach, we're really talking about engaging and fixing the world. Yaakov Avinu, Yaakov, is a very great tzaddik. He's an awesome tzaddik, and he's living a very, very spiritual life in his home in Be'er Sheva, next to his father. And that's until now. He's already over 60 years old. 60 years old, 60 years of divine connection. 60 years of Talmudic, of study, of Torah study. 60 years of deep meditative prayer. 60 years of the highest connection with God. And then after this, he leaves his father's house and he goes to deal with the big bad world. He goes out to his uncle Lavan, he goes to a hostile environment. He has to first engage in business, he never did that. And he's dealing with a con artist, a very dangerous person. And he spends 20 years over there being cheated all the time and having to make his way in the midst of all that. But Yaakov Avinu, unbelievably, he fixes that whole place. He transforms, he builds a Jewish family. He builds great wealth for himself and turns it into holy wealth, godly wealth, using it for good purposes. And then, after that, we go to next week's Torah portion. And next week's Torah portion is going to be all about taking it even a step deeper, going to confront the really, really, really dangerous dark forces in the world. And that is Yaakov's brother Esav, who is the father of Amalek, the father of Edom, the nation that were in exile for 2,000 years, the brutal forces of Edom that are the forces that are so completely bent towards the destruction of everything holy and godly in this world. And Yaakov goes and takes on Esav, and at the end triumphs over Esav and the angel of Esav. It's the story of next week's Torah portion. So if you think about it, the idea of these two parshios, Vayeitzei and Vayishlach, is all about going out into the world. And if we can take it a step further, the week after that is going to be a continuation of Yosef HaTzadik, who's going to take it even further. He's going to go into the most depraved society at that time, which is Egypt, and work on converting that too to holy. as we learn in Chassidus, elevating all the sparks, taking out the wealth of Egypt like he actually did in his own life, and later he leads the Jewish people into Egypt, and then the Jewish people come out. So basically, from Vayeitzei, from this, it's like, you think, Vayeitzei Yaakov is going out. It's going to take about 300 years until he's going to come back. He thought he's going away. He's going away. He's coming back soon. I mean, he himself came back 20 years later. But what he opened up was this notion of going out into the world. And until the Jews came in with Joshua, with Yeshua, they're still outside, repairing the world. So whether Yaakov knows this or he doesn't, this parsha, Vayeitzei, means the Jew cannot stay indoors in the comfort of his home, but the Jew needs to impact the world. That's the parsha. The season, the time of the year that we're learning it, is during the month of Kislev. That's when. Now we just started Kislev. Now what's Kislev all about? Kislev is related to the deepest parts of the Torah. Number one, Kislev is the third month in the winter months, because there's two counting an hour counting of the months. One count begins in Nisan, because the Holy Ari says that the 12 months of the year are in two columns. Column one is from Nisan till Elul. Second column is from Tishrei, which is the 7th month of the year, until Adar. Two columns, and they parallel each other. So Nisan parallels Tishrei, Cheshvan, Iyar, they parallel. So Sivan and Kislev go hand in hand. And so why do we see the similarities? Sivan is the time when God gave us the Torah. That's what is Matan Torah. That's Sivan. And what happens in Kislev? In Kislev, again, we have the giving of the Torah. But we have the giving of the esoteric part of the Torah. Because that's when we have the great Chassidic holidays, the 19th of Kislev, which opened up the door to the well springs of the deeper parts of Torah to flow to the world. And even Hanukkah is also all about the secrets of the Torah, the great light of Hanukkah, because Hanukkah is the Yom Tiv most associated with oil. And oil represents the hidden part of the Torah, the oil of the Torah, the secrets of the secrets. The revealed part of the Torah, the outer part of the Torah, is compared to water. The secrets of the Torah is compared to wine. And the secrets of the secrets, which is even deeper than Kabbalah, which is Chassidut, which is the essence of the Torah, the teachings of Mashiach, is compared to oil. So here we have seemingly somewhat of a contradiction, because the parsha is taking us very outward. The parsha is taking us away from the inner realm, definitely from the inner secrets of the Torah. It's taking us to face the world, to face the Charan of the world, which is like the Vegas of the world, to face the Lavans of the world, and even worse than that, to face Esav. So we're dealing with getting out there, getting our hands dirty, so to speak, with fixing the world. So that means going away from studying Torah. Definitely going away from studying the deepest secrets of the Torah that require complete commitment and purity of soul, purity of mind, which was more or less something that you do when you close yourself off in a closed place, seclude yourself, go to the mikveh, dip yourself like 310 times, and then come out and you're like in this holier state, disconnected from the world. You're learning, and then you're worthy for these great revelation of the secrets of the Torah. And here somehow they kind of coming together. The parsha, we're supposed to live with the parsha, is dealing with the outside, an outwardly experience. And the month, the time of the year, is dealing with very inward, connecting to the deepest inner point of our neshama. So how do the two work together? So in order to understand this, let's take a clue from this parsha. And what we're going to do is going to fast forward to the last end of the parsha. When we get all the way to the end of the parsha, it says Yaakov is on his way back from being by his uncle Lavan's house. He's returning. He escaped. By now he has a large family, 4 wives, and 11 sons, and 1 daughter. He amassed a fortune. He's coming back home. Servants, maidservants. It's a whole caravan. And they're returning back. He has a confrontation with Lavan. We say it in the Haggadah Shel Pesach. We thank God that he saved us from Lavan. Lavan at that point wanted it literally, and he had it within his ability. His evil powers were so strong that he wanted to obliterate, annihilate the entire Jewish people, the entire family. God's protected us. And then Yaakov makes some kind of a truce with Lavan. And then Yaakov continues on to his way to the land of Israel. So the pasuk says, "The Yaakov halach ledarko." This is the second to the last verse in this parsha. Yaakov goes to his way, vayifku by malachei Elokim, and he encounters godly angels. Amazing. Yaakov is walking and he sees a group of angels going towards him. Vayome Yaakov kashera'am. So when Yaakov sees them, Yaakov gets excited. And he says, Machne Elokim zeh. This is a divine camp. This is a godly camp. The angels of Hashem. It's a group of angels. So he's so excited to see them. Vayikra shem hamakom hahu machanayim. So he calls that place camps. The place where he met them, he called them machanayim, which means camp in the plural, which means 2 camps minimum. So Rashi says, what's going on here? Why is Yaakov now meeting a group of angels? So Rashi says, Vayifku by malachei Elokim, malachim shel Eretz Yisroel ba'u lekrasei lelavoisei la'aretz. These are the angels of the land of Israel. They are special. We know that every person has angels protecting us. It says so in the pasuk. Ki malachav yitzav, Hashem is going to send, because his angels, he will command to you lishmarcha, to protect the person. So we have angels that protect. But and we know that when a person is in the land of Israel, Israel is much holier. So the protecting angels that are in Israel are of a higher type of angels. And they protect and shield the person when they're in Eretz Yisrael. And then there's different kind of angels who are the angels of Chutz Li'aretz, outside the angels in the diaspora, wherever you are, whether you're in Europe, United States, Australia, wherever a person is outside of the land of Israel, we have different kinds of angels. Malachim of Chutz Li'aretz. So Yaakov had now spent 20 years outside of the land of Israel. And who accompanied him and protected him? The angels. We see by Yaakov Avinu, the angels were very active. The whole story with the sheep, the spotted sheep, the angels were bringing the speckled sheep and the spotted sheep to Yaakov's flocks, and that's why they were having babies that were speckled and ringed and spotted. I mean, the angels were very, very engaged. And by us, they're also engaged and involved. But we're not necessarily aware of them. But by Yaakov, he got to see how much. But now he's returning with these angels, which accompanied him during the time that he was outside of the land of Israel. So as he was approaching, getting closer to the border, he didn't cross the border yet. He's still you ever go down to Tijuana? I don't know if it's a good idea these days, but if you're ever driving down, so once you get halfway into San Diego, you start seeing already signs saying, last 3 exits before the border. And then, so when Yaakov is kind of a couple of exits away before the border, he sees these group of angels. Who are they? So Rashi says, these are the angels of Israel that are coming to greet him and escort him back to Eretz Yisrael. Okay? Israeli security. They're coming towards him, and they're going to lead the escort. Okay, now that's why that's what it means. Rashi says Malachei Elokim. Then it says Machanoim. Yaakov Avinu called that place Machanayim. So what does it mean? We said two camps. What are the two camps? Because Yaakov is saying, well, in this place that I'm standing now, I have two camps. I have the camps from Chutz Li'aretz. I have the group of angels that were accompanying me in the last 20 years. They were waiting for a tip, right? So they were still hanging out there. The new group of angels that were coming to greet Yaakov were all from the Israeli security. They were also there. And now he has both of them standing together. And that's why he calls this place a place of where the two camps are meeting. Shtei machanos, machanayim. That's what it is. Okay. Now, first of all, we'll ask over here just a simple question. How do we know that the first group of angels that Yaakov met are the Israeli angels? How do you know that the Malachim of Eretz Yisrael? How does Rashi know that? On the simple reading of the pasuk, Medrash. But Rashi is not quoting it from Medrash. Rashi seems to be knowing it from the simple meaning. So it's simple, because if you remember in the beginning of the parsha, which we didn't discuss now, when Yaakov is leaving, Vayeitzei Yaakov, when Yaakov is leaving Be'er Sheva, he has the dream and he sees the ladder. So he sees angels going up and going down. And Rashi was bothered by the idea that the angels are going up first. Angels live in heaven, they don't live down here. So if he's seeing angels, the angels have to first come down, they have to descend, and then they can ascend. So Rashi explains, the reason why it says angels going up first and then angels coming down is because the angels were with Yaakov the whole time already, even before he had the dream. These angels were accompanying him. But now, when he went to sleep, being that he was now ready to go out of Eretz Yisrael, so his Israeli angels were going up the ladder because they were going back to heaven, because Yaakov was leaving the land of Israel. So there was a change of guard. The Malachim of Eretz Yisrael were going up, and the Malachim and the angels of Chutz Li'aretz, of outside of Eretz Yisrael, were coming down. Okay? So now, as soon as Yaakov wakes up from his dream, and he leaves and he goes to Chutz Li'aretz, he's already going with the non-Israeli security going with him. Okay? And it's interesting, they came down in Eretz Yisrael, they're taking him out. Similar to over here, where the Israeli the Malachim of Eretz Yisrael are going. Okay, fine. But, so, comes out, we know already from Rashi, we know already from the Torah, that Yaakov had Malachim given to him special for the journey. He had angels, particularly with him, to take him outside and to protect him. Hashem said to him, I will protect you. Simply, how is Hashem protecting Yaakov? Through the angels. That they were his protectors and all that. So now Rashi is bothered, because the pasuk says, suddenly Yaakov sees a group of angels, gets all excited, they're the Malachim. Hold it. He encounters angels. He has the angels for the last 20 years. They're with him the whole time. Because of that question, we have to say, yeah, he had angels, but these are the non-Israeli angels. These are the angels from Chutz Li'aretz, from outside of Eretz Yisrael. Now he's getting to meet the Malachim back from Eretz Yisrael. And because of that, Yaakov Avinu is excited. He says, here are the Sabra angels. The Israeli angels. He's excited about these Malachim. And therefore he calls out, Machna Lekim Zeh. So that's how we know that this was that, because or else we would wonder, he had the Malachim all along. He had those angels. Doesn't have to get fine. But what is the chidush? What is the novelty of? Okay, so that's going on already the whole parsha. The Malachim come to him over there. The Malachim are going there. What's the novelty over here? The novelty is that Yaakov Avinu called the place Machanayim, which means two camps. What was the great excitement? The great excitement was because here something unusual happened. What was unusual? You had both angels standing together. There was an encounter of both of them. A little while later, the angels of Chutz Li'aretz, of outside Eretz Yisrael, are going to leave. Earlier, he only had one pair, the Malachim of outside of Eretz Yisrael. It was only at this encounter, I don't know how long it took, an hour or so, whatever, it doesn't say, that Yaakov Avinu was accompanied by two groups, Machanayim. And what's unique is, when we just reviewed the story from the beginning of the parsha, over there he never had two groups of angels at one time. What does it say? The Malachim went up. The Malachim that were protecting him till then departed and they went up to Shamayim, they went up to heaven. And then the new angels came down. That means there wasn't a moment when Yaakov had both groups of Malachim at the same time. Now, when he's returning, Yaakov has them both. The Malachim of Eretz Yisroel and the Malachim of Chutz Li'aretz. So we need to understand the difference, the significance. When I'm not even going to go into, we're not going to talk so much about its practical meaning as it refers to Yaakov. What I'd like to discuss today is more the spiritual meaning as this refers to each and every one of us. Because when we talk about Yaakov in the parsha, as long as we're talking about an ancient man who lived 3,500 years ago, it's a nice story. But when we realize that when we speak about Yaakov, it's really the story of each and every one of us. Because every single Jew is called Yaakov. From all of our forefathers, the one that we are named, we're not called Avram unless your name is Avram. Actually sponsored the class today for someone called Avram. We're not called Yitzchak, the Jewish people, but we are called Yaakov. Definitely, we're even called Yaakov's greater name, Yisroel. That means every single one of us is a Yaakov. So the story of Yaakov is our story. So this story of the angels is also our story. What's the story of the angels in each and every one of our lives? What are these angels? And the meaning is as follows. In addition to the guardian angels that we all have, that guard and protect us, we are also produce angels. We make angels. The Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, chapter 4, Perek Daled, Mishnah Yud Aleph. I forgot the name of the sage, but he says, "Oisa mitzvah achas." If a person does one mitzvah, koin eloi, he acquires for himself praklit echad. He acquires for himself an advocate. You have one advocate in heaven who is gonna route for you. That's what it is. The Mefarshim on the Mishnah explain that it's literally an angel. A mitzvah creates an angel. We do not such good things, we create negative angels. We're in the angel production business. We're all producing angels all the time based on our actions. We are far more powerful than we think we are. Now, being that we're making angels, so we also make Israeli angels and we make non-Israeli angels. We make Eretz Yisrael Malachim and Chutz Li'aretz Malachim. You ever thought of that? See, it's new. Always learn something new when you come to Maayon. You ever know that? You are constantly creating angels. You're creating Eretz Yisrael angels and non-Eretz Yisrael angels. Why? Because you and me and all of us were comprised of a body and a soul. Our soul is a holy entity, a piece of God from above. Our body is not so holy. Our body, we can make it holy. That's our job. But in and of itself is mundane and sometimes even a little bit to the left side of mundane. The body is sometimes all over the place. So we have a holy neshama. And our neshama, even when it descends, our soul was much, 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 much higher when it was in heaven. Even when Hashem diminishes the soul, compresses the soul, and brings it down lower and lower so it can enter into our body without blowing us away with its light. Understand, God has to diminish the neshama, tune it down, that it shouldn't overwhelm us with all this powerful spiritual energy. But even with all the diminishments and all the diluting of the soul is still a very holy entity. We say it in davening, Elokai, neshama, the neshama, shenosato bi, that you put into me. Meaning not only the neshama as it is up there, but the neshama that entered my body, tohorahi, she's pure. So she's very pure. Therefore, our neshama is equivalent to Eretz Yisroel. What's Eretz Yisroel? A holy land. So our neshama is the Eretz Yisroel side of us, the Israel in us. The body is not holy. If the body is not holy and prone, meaning its natural tendency is to get not so clean and not so pure, the body is, if we don't harness it, we don't direct it, the body, as we mentioned earlier, gets misguided. So therefore, our body is compared to chutz la'aretz. Chutz la'aretz means outside, the lands of the nations. Now, the lands of the nations are impure. After Mashiach comes, they will become pure, but now they are impure till Mashiach comes. So much so, people might not know this, that if a person left the land of Israel during the time of when the Beis Hamikdash stood in the times when we kept the laws of ritual purity, when a person left Eretz Yisrael, even for a quick visit to Chutz Li'aretz, they became defiled. They became tamei. And they needed to get themselves, if they ever wanted to eat from the sacrificial meat, from a korban, if they ever were going to go into the Beis Hamikdash, they needed to get sprinkled like a person coming into contact with a dead body. The Chachamim decreed an impurity both on the earth, on the entire earth outside of Eretz Yisrael, and also on the ear, on the atmosphere. The ear outside of Eretz Yisrael and the earth is considered defiled. Since Chutz Li'aretz is not considered holy, so our body is like the unholy geographic location. So we are combined, however, body and soul. So we are a mixture. We are a mixture of Eretz Yisrael, and we are also a mixture of Chutz Li'aretz. We are both, simultaneously. Now, because we have a body and a soul, Eretz Yisrael and non-Eretz Yisrael, and we are commanded to serve Hashem, and our service of Hashem involves our entire existence, body and soul. So we have within our lives two types of experiences, two types of divine service. One kind of a divine service relates more to our neshama. We are doing things that activate the soul, that express the soul, that stimulate the soul, or nurture the soul and nourish the soul. And then there are certain aspects in our lives where we are here rectifying, purifying, refining, elevating the body or the animal consciousness in man. See, there's two elements. We can say, in a sense, that is the difference, it's a simple way where you can see it, between Shabbos and the weekday. Shabbos, for the average Jew, is a day of detachment. We go away from all kinds of worldly activity, and we occupy ourselves primarily with spiritual pursuits. Extra learning, extra davening, extra spirituality. Comes Sunday, Monday, we're involved in a mundane world. People go to work. And even if you get a little bit time to pray and a little bit time to learn, it's only a small little portion of the day. Most of the time of the day, we are involved in business dealings, in work and so forth. That's all mundane. And if that's mundane, it means the unholy. So we ourselves, on Shabbos, we are in Eretz Yisrael. And during the weekday, we are in Chutz Li'aretz. Simply because on Shabbos we are in soul territory. And it says almost like we don't have a body, even though we have to give our body food and relaxation, but the body is canceled to the soul on Shabbos. And in the weekday, we are in body territory. We have, of course, some moments of soul, but primarily it's a weekday experience. Eretz Yisrael and Chutz Li'aretz. Now, Being that we mentioned earlier that when we do a mitzvah, what are we doing? We are producing angels. So when we are doing the service of God related to the neshama, for example, Torah study is an exercise of the soul. It's not so much involving the body. It's not about the body. It's to probe God's wisdom, which you do with your neshama. Of course, you're using your physical brain to do so you're engaging the body to a certain degree, but it's primarily an exercise of the soul, and it's geared towards the neshama. It's an experience of light. You are creating malachim. You create angels. What kind of angels do you create? Israeli angels. Eretz Yisroel diga malachim. Those are the angels. Now, when you're involved as part of your spiritual service in the refinement of the body, for instance, doing business according to Torah. That's what it is. Doing business according to Torah. You're serving God in your business. Especially when you have an opportunity to make some money, chas v'shalom, and it's a little bit crooked, and it's not exactly according to the ethics of Torah. And you do not do it, and you consult the rabbi, and you follow what Torah says is the right thing to do. You're creating powerful angels. But being that it's involving one's mundane realm of life, these are the angels of the outside of Eretz Yisrael. Nothing wrong with them. They're not Israeli angels. They are the malachim of Chutz Li'aretz. Or when one makes a blessing during eating, you're eating food. You're not engaged in some spiritual, you're not davening. You're eating. When you're eating, you're making a blessing. You're creating an angel. But that's a Chutz Li'aretz, because you are in the Chutz Li'aretz territory. You're outside of Eretz Yisrael. So the malachim that you're creating are non-Israeli malachim, non-Eretz Yisrael malachim. So these are the two camps of malachim that a Jew creates in his service of Hashem. Following? Makes sense? There's two camps. Now, this is not only our private business, these malachim. Unbeknown to us, we might not recognize it, we might not see it, we might not feel it, but these angels are powerful spiritual influencers. Again, these angels have influence on the world. They influence. They cause a change in the environment. I mean, obviously we know that when we think we might be doing our own private lives, doing our own private mitzvahs, we all understand every time you make a blessing, there is a change that's happening in the world. Where do you see that? That the malachim are impacting the world. What does it say by Yaakov? After he greets his two camps, he sees them both, counters the Israeli group, and he has his Chutz Li'aretz group of malachim. He sees them. Vayikra Shem HaMakoim Machanayim. Yaakov doesn't write into his diary, I had an angelic experience, and notes that in his memory, in his own private memory, I met angels. That's not what he does. He names the place. What does that have to do with the place? No, he names the place. Naming the place means that his spiritual experience of angels, of angel encounter, is impacting the place. It's impacting it so much that it's becoming the name of the place that he's at. Which at first you can ask a question. I mean, what's Yaakov doing? What do you mean he's naming? What do you mean he's naming? The place didn't have a name. This is the most civilized place in the world. So people are living on all those. The place had a name already. I don't know, what's the exit before Tijuana? I don't know, right before you get there. Before you cross the Mexican border. It has a name, I forgot already. I once went there. Just the last neighborhood in San Diego, right? It had a name. Yaakov's place also had a name. There was a name already. Did anybody call him? Did the mayor of the place call him, we want a renaming over here? I mean, you read these stories and we take them for granted. Vayikra Yaakov Shem HaMakom. Yaakov goes and he calls the place. Why is it his business to name the place? He's passing through here. The answer is Yaakov knows the power of a Jew. You define reality. No one cares. No one is busy looking. Everybody's doing their own thing. They're having the Thanksgiving dinner while Yaakov is meeting these things. Everybody's doing they're watching Sunday football. Everybody's doing whatever they're doing, but Yaakov doesn't care. He names the place. Why? Because a Jew has... The Jew being the agent of Hashem in this world, the ambassador of godliness to this world, the Jew has power. And Yaakov's angelic experience is being imprinted, literally, it's being imprinted forever on this place, that this place has a new name. It's called Machanayim because of Yaakov's two angels. He's influencing the world with the Malach. And these are the Malachei Elokim that happens. Okay. But now, once we have the outer setting, okay, you got the outer structure. That this applies, so obviously this applies to each and every one of us. That wherever we are, our service pertaining to our neshama, and our service of Hashem pertaining to our body, produces malachim, different types of angels. These angels influence the place, so much so that it gets imprinted in the name of the place where we are. Fine. But once we have that as the outer setting, let's get a deeper understanding. In the name, in this that Yaakov sees the angels and he says, Malachei Elokim. These are angels of God. What does Elokim, simply, loosely translated, it means divine beings, angelic beings. More specifically, Elokim is one of the names of Hashem. There are 7 names of God that are unerasable, that are treated as holy. You're not allowed to erase it ever. Those names, and what does Elokim mean? So it says I'm not talking about anything mystical. When you learn Shulchan Aruch, so in Torah, he describes what you're supposed to have, your kavanah, what is supposed to be the intention when you say Hashem's name. Whenever you say Elokim in davening, you're supposed to have in mind the Almighty One, the All-Powerful One. God as a takif ubal hayacholes, the one that can do anything. In other words, the idea of Elokim is a superpower, or the superpower. Everybody appreciates and everybody knows we are not a superpower. We're small little people hoping to make a little influence and a little dent in this world. Our humanity, our being human means being very limited. Okay, I know it means less limited than a cow, but we're pretty limited in our scope. How long are we here? We're here for a couple of years, then we're tired half the time, and we're disturbed half the time, and we're weak half the time, and we're lazy, and we are this, and we are that. And hopefully, throughout our life, we manage to etch out a couple of nice things that we do, right? All right, so that's good. But we're limited. We're limited. The concept of Yaakov having angels, Malachei Elokim, represents the idea that if his service produces Malachei Elokim, it means he is producing Elokim means super powerful. It means a superpower. That means Yaakov's service is producing all-powerful angels. It's producing forces that are limitless in their power. How is that? It must be that the service itself that produced them, the one that was serving, the Yaakov who was creating these angels, was operating in a limitless way. Meaning with a power that transcends the normal energies of a human being. Now, obviously, we can appreciate that about Yaakov. When Yaakov says to Lavan, and he says to him, "I worked for you," he goes on to describe to him the inhumane conditions that he was in, how difficult. He said, I didn't sleep, and nonetheless. And the Medrash tells us that Yaakov did not stop studying Torah even for 1 minute while he was doing all that work. Or according to one opinion, he was saying Tehillim, but his work was like very, very intense. Superhuman energy in his work that he was doing. Especially if we take into this idea that we discussed earlier, that the powers of Haran were all the potential powers of the exile that were coming head on against Yaakov. You realize every single thing, Yaakov was in exile for 20 years. I think it's safe to say, we know that if our forefathers would have not trailblazed, we would never be able to do it. So that means that if Yaakov is there 20 years, the 2,000th year exile, is there anybody that can measure the amount of challenge, the difficulties, the hardships, the problems that we, the Jewish people, went through both collectively and individually? In the 2,000 years, the obstacles that were in our way, that we had to overcome. Yaakov in a microcosm experienced all of that in its source. And he had to battle it. So what did that require? That required from Yaakov to work completely beyond the nature of a regular human being. And that's the meaning of, that's why Yaakov produced Elokim. Elokim in the sense over here means all-powerful. Because his service was beyond human. Yaakov's avoda was beyond, now you'll say it, beyond human. How can a human be beyond human? And the answer is, he's a Jew. Just to be human, like sometimes in many circles, the highest achievement you can be is be a mensch. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being a mensch. You have to be a mensch. You can't start without being a mensch. But that's it. That's not for Jews. A Jew is not here to be a mensch. A Jew is here to be divine, to be godly, to channel Hashem into the world. But what does that require? It requires the idea of getting past the natural dictates of what makes up our definition that defines us as who we are. Breaking that nature. When you break the nature, you're cracking that limitation and that boundary, and that allows for the infinite of God to express itself. And that's what a Jew is here for. To reveal Hashem in this otherwise time, space bound, limited, defined existence. So a Jew's service needs to be boundless, thereby creating Malachei Elokim, godly angels. But when we create these Malachei Elokim, these godly angels, the real meaning of a godly angel means a super transcendent power that's beyond human. It means that the service of Hashem, our commitment and our service has to be beyond regular, beyond nature. And both in the Israeli angels that we create and in the non-Israeli angels that we create. That means in the work with the body and in the work with the soul. And translate that into everyday life. We're here in this world, serving Hashem is referred to as Oved Elokim. Oved, as the pasuk says, Usha'aftem re'isem, you will turn around, you will see Bein Oved Elokim, between one who serves God, La'ashalo Avodo, one who doesn't serve Him. So serving Hashem is called Oved Elokim. So in Likutei Torah, Reb Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the Baal HaTanya, the Holy Alter Rebbe, says in the Maimer and Pashas Mishpatim, when it says Sheish Shanim Yavod, it says about a servant that 6 years he should work. It's referring to the work that each and every one of us has in this world. That's what he says. To be a servant of God, it means the toil, the effort that each and every one of us is given in this world. But he says an interesting idea. He says the word Yavod comes from the word Ibud. Yavod doesn't only mean work. It's the term that the sages use when it's referring to a tannery. A tannery is where you're working out leather. So you're taking hides from an animal. I don't think anybody over here visited a tannery. Maybe you did. It has an awful smell. It stinks to no end. And that's why it says that actually anybody who's been given a high position, a respectable position amongst the Jewish people, like the Kohen Gadol, like the high priest, or a king, may not have ever worked in a tannery. It's not considered a clean work, it's a smelly kind of a work. But yet we are told that as a Jew, no one is exempt, besides the high priest, the big tzaddik. But other than that, everybody else has got to work the tannery. What's the tannery? The tannery represents the animalistic, the lowly, the skin of the animal. That's referring to our natural composition when we're born. Every single person, every single one amongst us is born with certain tendencies that are not so good. And if you don't work on it, you don't refine yourself, that's not going to lead to too much of a productive, healthy life. And we all understand that. Some of us struggle with extreme laziness and, we don't want to move, we don't want to budge, we don't want to. And if you don't challenge that, then you leave a very, very unproductive life. Others are born with tendency of arrogance and haughtiness. Others are born with a tendency of any kind of addictions. Obviously you're not born with an addiction, but you're born with the tendency of becoming addicted to some kind of whether it's a food addiction, whether it's a drinking addiction, a substance addiction, or something like that. So if you let the body just be its natural self, you're going to run yourself into a deep pit, into a deep hole. That's not good. So obviously we all understand that's even just to be a mensch, even just to be a normal human being, you got to challenge. A person has to challenge the natural state of their physical existence. Got to work on yourself. That's part of education of parents, but it doesn't end with parents. A person has to continuously, as you grow older, challenge the weaker parts of a person's nature. But in Judaism, it's so much more than that. In Judaism, in order to be able to be an influencer, in order to be able to shine godly light in the world, if a person does not take on the physical, the crassness of the body, and allow the body to just be what we call a big behemoth, meaning a complete animal, then there's nothing productive in a person's life. There's no godliness coming out of a person. So the avoda is work when you take a tough piece of leather, how do you change it? What do? You have a piece of leather of an animal. It's not leather yet. It's a hide. How do you turn it into fine leather? So what they need to do is you need a stamp on it. First of all, they treat it with various different chemicals. But in addition to that, you stamp on it, and you bend it, and you bend it, and you bend it, and you bend it this way, and you bend it that way, and you bend it this way. So we know, mainly this is the teachings of Musar, which is meant to teach a person how to not do whatever they want, whatever you want. If you're just following the dictates of your body, forget about it. So you gotta, Maimonides talks about this. Maimonides says that whatever kind of tendency you have, in order to break that habit, you have to go to the complete other extreme. That every time the body wants to be lazy and just lay in bed, you wake up dafka half an hour earlier. Keep on challenging that laziness. It's tired, it's lazy, it's weak, you push him to the other extreme. If the person feels that they have very strong and overly appetite or overly desire for food or overly for thing, you push it the other way. You don't give it to him. That kind of a self-control, that kind of it breaks and weakens and softens, and then after a while you start making a mensch out of the body. That work is breaking the habit, breaking the nature. And what does it take? Sometimes, and not sometimes. The energy behind that is an energy it's not coming from your nature. Because if it's coming from your nature, nature is your nature. So with what power are you overriding your nature? Obviously, you have to dig deeper into yourself to an inner core, to a core that's not defined by any definitions. And by a Jew, what that really means is your godly soul. And from that godly soul that is limitless in its ability, you can override the nature of one's existence. What does that produce? That produces the malachim. What kind of malachim? Malachei Elokim. Super powerful angel, because it's a super powerful work that's the underlying energy to do this work. So it produces malachim, but again, it's the non-Eretz Yisrael angels, because it's all about refinement of the body, refinement of the lowly character aspect of the person. But then, what happens once you pass that? Once you reach the point where you feel, you know what, I've overcome it. I'm okay. I don't have any more the same kinds of tendencies, same kinds of addictions, same kinds of patterns of behavior that were plaguing my life and bringing me into all kinds of darkness and all kinds of stuff. I kind of feel I worked on myself. And it's a good thing. Person should feel at a certain point, hopefully if you're making progress, I've worked on myself. I've overcome the lowliness, the crassness of the body. It's not ruling over me. I feel like I'm connecting to a deeper and a higher self, a more inner self, where I feel more in control and I'm devoted to something more spiritual. It's not that selfish, beastly self that I had when I was younger. I feel that now I finally kind of feel a little bit more of a master in my life. Oh, so then what? Oh, now a person feels kind of liberated. And I'm more in touch with a higher self, with a self that is aspiring to learn Torah, do mitzvahs. I'm not, the need to eat, or the need to drink, or the need to sleep, or the need are not such factors. They're not or they're not dictating. So I can spend my life being more of a Jew, devoted to Jewish things, to holy things. In other words, the work is now shifting more to the neshama, to the soul. So what happens now? So now, my unholy nature I've already dealt with that. So then I'm scot-free, I'm good, I'm perfectly fine. And the answer is absolutely not. Why absolutely not? Because now you're dealing with a different kind of a nature. Now you have to deal with something far more subtle. The subtlety of the nature of a holy nature. See, earlier you were dealing with, a person is dealing with a despicable nature. A despicable nature where you have no choice but to overcome. I mean, unless one wants to just live a dark life. But if you want to move ahead and elevate yourself, you got to get past that. Fine. But once you pass that, okay, so now I have only good tendencies. But the problem is tendency. That means that your Judaism becomes habit. And the habit itself is the limitation. And the limitation is boundaries. Now, these are very good boundaries in the sense that you're talking about, what is my nature? My nature is that if I have free time, I study Torah. That's my nature. Instead of having other stuff that used to always, grab my attention, now I'm past that. I can study Torah. I can do mitzvahs. I'm looking for good things to do to help people and so on and so on. This is a beautiful, beautiful person. But limited. So the Alter Rebbe again, Rav Shneur Zalman Layadi says an amazing thing in Perek, in the 15th chapter of Tanya. The Alter Rebbe brings the pasuk which says in Malachi. In Malachi it says the verse that I mentioned earlier. Usha'aftem eru'isem. You should turn around and you will see bein oived elokim, bein tzaddik v'rasha, between a tzaddik and a rasha, v'oved elokim la'ashalo avodo, to one who serves God and the one that doesn't serve God. So he brings what the Gemara says in Masechtas Chagiga, I think. The Talmud Tractate Chagiga says that what does it mean, the difference between someone who's serving God, that after Mashiach comes, you're going to see the difference between people who served God and those who didn't serve God. So the question over there is, who serving and not serving, we said already earlier, a tzaddik is someone who serves God, and a rasha is someone who's not serving God, a wicked person. So what does it mean, someone who's serving or not serving? It's the same thing. The verse is redundant. So Reb Shneur Zalman of Liadi explains the Alter Rebbe, and he says, no. He says, the servant and the non-servant, both of them are both tzaddikim. They're both righteous people. Because we're dealing with someone who's doesn't have any sins in their life. They're perfect. Their behavior is actually perfect. They live their lives actually completely according to the dictate of the Shulchan Aruch. They learn Torah all the time, do mitzvahs, never doing anything that you're not allowed to. But yet they are referred to as someone who is not serving God. Why? Because everything remains within the borders and the boundaries of what they are comfortable with. There is no getting out of their comfort zone. So they will continue living all their life, learning Torah for 8 hours a day. But he's never going to go to 8.5 hours. Why? Because I feel satisfied, that's how much. Now I have my nap, and then I'm not a bad nap. You need to nap. I have my nap, now I eat my snack, I have my tea, and now I'm going to do this. And it's good, nothing wrong. We're not dealing with anything problematic with the person's behavior. You're actually doing everything perfectly and good. Problem is that you're not being divine. You're not overcoming anything. You're being a finite entity, a wholly finite being, but yet a finite. You're not displaying God. That's why he brings from the Talmud. He brings that the Talmud says the difference between someone who reviews his studies 100 times to the one who reviews his study 101 times. What's the difference between 100 and 101? Why? For the one who's serving, who reviews his study 101 times is called the one that's serving God. The one that doesn't review his studies 101 times, he did it 100 times. Please. What's wrong with that? No, he's not serving God. Why is he not serving Hashem? Because in those days, he says it was the natural thing to do was to study something 100 times because they usually didn't write things down. They recorded everything in memory. So whenever they learned something, they studied it to really know it 100 times. But to learn it one more time, you have to break yourself completely. I'm doing this because it's God's Torah and I want to do a mitzvah. Even though you have no interest in learning it anymore because you know it already perfectly. So but they would study it one more time just to break that limitation, that boundary. And then you touch the infinite. Then you're connecting to the Ein Sof. Then your service is truly manifesting the divine, or else it's remaining within the realm of the finite. So what do we see from here? That both in both services, dealing with the crassness and the lowliness and the dark side of a human being requires getting past yourself, breaking your ego, moving past yourself, and breaking the definitions or the parameters of one's neshama, of one's soul, of one's spiritual identity. That is also the service on both ends. And through these two types of services, you create these two types of super beings. If your service is super service transcending the limitations of humanity, going beyond, and we have the power to do that because of our godly origins. But when does Yaakov Avinu point? And he gets excited and he says, Machne Elokim Zeh. Where do you see the true infinity? The real Ein Sof, the real boundlessness. So, if I am moving past the confinements and the limitations, what we sometimes refer to as Mitzrayim, the Egypt, that is unholy. If I'm breaking addictions, or if I'm moving past certain behavior patterns that I've been kind of stuck in for a long time, and I break that, so I've broken my outer shell. But did I really transcend all definition at all? No, because as we mentioned earlier, now I'm just uncovering a higher, deeper self, which that higher, deeper self also has limitations and boundaries. So really in stage number one, when we're dealing with the breaking out of the natural earthy side of man's nature, even though it's transcendence, but you don't really sense the real Ein Sof, the real infinite of the divine. But when one can break the definitions even of his neshama, of his soul, then there is no boundaries. Their service to God is on a level that's purely infinite. There's no boundaries at all. What is the boundaries here? Because you've passed and surpassed the nature even of the neshama, even of the soul. That's really so. That's why when does Yaakov point and he say, Machne Elokim, this is the real godly? When he's seeing the angels of Eretz Yisrael. The angels of Israel represent a service in regarding to the holy aspects of a Jew, which is Eretz Yisrael, but over there too, it's beyond human. That's when he points and he gets excited and says, this is godly. That's the way it appears. That's the way it looks like. But the truth is, and here the depth over here, I'm sharing with you a teaching that the Rebbe spoke. The Lubavitch Rebbe spoke in the year 5751. An amazing talk. The Rebbe says if you take a look deeper, and the truth is if you dig deeper, it's not that way. Even one's initial service, when you're trying to overcome any kind of limitation, any type of restriction, any type of behavior pattern, or even if you're not breaking a behavior pattern, you're just breaking your natural tendency one time, right? Even there could be expressed the truly infinite power of the Ein Sof. It doesn't mean, and it depends like what your attitude is, what the attitude is. In other words, what are you challenging? There's two ways to challenge yourself. One way a person can challenge themselves is you feel that, I have a certain habit and I'm frustrated with that habit. This is destroying my life. I have a habit of neglect. Let's say a person has a habit of neglect. They're procrastinating. They never get things done. Everything gets pushed off to tomorrow. In the end, they end up doing things sloppy, or even when they're the last minute, or they end up having all kinds of excuses why things don't get done. And that's not good. So procrastination, leaving things for the end, laziness is not a good thing. So let's say they said enough is enough. I'm going to see to it whenever I have an opportunity to do something, I'm going to do it right away. Even though everything in me says put it off for later. If you don't realize, I talk about myself. I put everything off for whenever. My motto is if I can do it tomorrow, why do it today, right? And that's not good. So you got to break that. You got to break that. So if I decide that I'm going to break that, and my intention in breaking it is because I want to break one habit. I'm frustrated with this habit. Then you're right. Then I'm not transcending the human condition. I'm transcending this particular habit. I'm fighting it. I'm breaking it. Fine. But if I'm not challenging the habit, I'm challenging the I that's behind the habit. I'm challenging the very sense that I'm a limited being and I don't want this limitation. I know that in essence, I'm a reflection of God. In essence, I'm a piece of Hashem from above. And therefore, I feel that these restrictions, true, it's manifesting in the limitation of this procrastination habit, or the not having whatever it is, whatever that temptation, whatever that stuckness is that you find yourself. You're dealing with anger management, and you're realizing this is not good. But it's not so much just about the negativity of the anger. It's the fact that why am I stuck to the nature that I was born? And I realize that that's a shell. That's not who I really am. That's just a constriction. There's a deeper me. And I want to break that because I want to express Ein Sof. I want to express the infinite. I want to out. So even if it's in something that's very, very what we might say, very, very on beginning level. Something that's very, very not advanced. It's amateur. It's at the very, very start. But if the underlying force behind that is challenging limitation and boundaries, then it's an expression of the infinite. And let me give you just an analogy to that. Two people show up to the gym. Two people are going to work out. Two people are coming. One person is there because they gained 10 pounds after Hanukkah over their donuts. And now they're just frustrated. They're going to get rid of their 10 pounds. 10 pounds overweight, I'm going to work it off. So then, okay, the 10 pounds are bothering me. I'm going to work and work it out until I get rid of my 10 pounds and I'm done. Then there's another person who's coming to work out, also signing up for the first day. But they are signing up for a lifetime of what? Of workout. And what's their ambition? Today I'm going to lift 2 pounds. Tomorrow I'm going to lift 4 pounds. The next day I'm going to lift 6 pounds. Then I'm going to become a heavyweight lifter. And then I'm going to break this and I'm going to become the ultimate champion, breaking every record. You know? So even though they're starting off with lifting feathers, this is new. But their attitude and their drive is not the 10 pounds. It's not the limited accomplishment. The idea is, I'm starting. I'm on my way. I'm starting with something small. But I'm here for a lifetime commitment. That's the question. So the real drive that we're talking about over here of being a Jew and creating this angelic force, tapping in to this infinite power, is really related to the sense that even if I'm starting right now with the smallest breakage of a very, very, very specific element that is negative in my life, again, it has nothing to do with that particular negativity that I'm breaking. It's not about, that's almost just like as a consequence of you respecting, acknowledging, and recognizing your true potential as a Jew to shine, to be godly, and not limited, and not stuck, and not defined. That's the idea. It happens to be, it will express itself in whatever it is that you're challenged with, and whatever it is you're overcoming. It's that, and the truth is, then, if that's the case, then even when you're going to break completely, and your person is going to be scot-free from all negative impulses and drives that are negative, and you're going to be completely devoted. You're going to be, let's say, in the days of Mashiach, completely devoted to serving Hashem without any interferences. You're still going to serve God, breaking your boundaries continuously, the boundaries of your soul as well, meaning the definitions and limitations that define. Why? Because the motivation is not a motivation of frustration with a particular habit. It's challenging the very definitions and limitations that exist in the cosmos. It's breaking. It's the energy of ufaratsta. That's the idea. Now this idea we can see, and it's just an amazing thing the Rebbe says, if you take a look at the nature, the signs, we're talking about, right? We're talking about now about refinement of our animal soul, right? So we know what constitutes a kosher animal. What constitutes a kosher animal? So we know it has 2 signs for an animal to be kosher. What are the 2 signs for an animal to be kosher? Split hooves, and it chews its cud. Split hooves. So he points out to something really magnificent, which I've never seen before. First of all, it's 2 signs, number 1. It needs 2 signs to be kosher. Number 2, each one of the 2 signs the sign is related to something double. The hooves are split. There's 2 hooves. Each hoof split. When it comes to chewing it chews its cud twice, right? It chews something once, swallows it, regurgitates, brings it back up, chews it another time. So what's the idea of chewing twice? What's the idea of the split hooves? And why is it two? The notion of two is the notion of double. And the notion of double really means the infinite. I know double means only twice, but the real idea of twice means, you can set your iPhone or your music app on playing a song, or you can set it on repeat. So if you set it on repeat, what's going to happen? It's going to play the song, it's going to get to the end, it's going to play it again. So if you're not going to interfere, how long is it going to play? It's going to go on infinity. It's going to never, as long as your battery is not going to run out, if you're plugged into the plug, it will play and play, but you'll forget your iPhone, you come back in 300 years, it'll still be playing the same song because it's on repeat. The idea of kefil means repetition. It doesn't end. The sign of the kosher animal, what does that mean? The sign of challenging the animal side of man, which primarily constitutes a person's natural existence, is if you set into motion a drive within this that is never ending. Now, in the sense that what? I challenge my ego once, I challenge my nature once, and I've broken something, but I'm not stopping. It's not about those extra 5 pounds that I have to lose. It's the very workout itself. I'm breaking this, and I'm going to break that, and then it's again and again and repeat, and on 2 levels. The split hooves represent that even if I'm dealing in one aspect of my life that I'm going to overcome, it's not just about this. I'm already in a mode that I'm double. It's this, and I'm not ready to go here yet. I'm not ready yet to challenge my anger yet. I'm still dealing with my laziness. I'm still dealing with my lusts or curbing my physical earthy desires and wants. I'm still dealing with one particular aspect. I can't deal with everything at once. That's fine. But the underlying drive beneath it is the drive that I'm not a prisoner. Nothing is going to hold me here. And if it's this today, it'll be that tomorrow, and tomorrow I'll get there. That's the idea of split hooves. It's not one, it's not singular. It's set from the moment you step out to work and deal with your, so to speak, issues, you're set with the drive to deal with all of them. Then there is another thing. Chewing the cud is also double, but on a different level. It's not dealing with horizontal, with the various different things, it's vertical. And vertical means that even if I achieved a certain level of refinement, there is a higher and more refined state. And there is even a more refined state. And there's even a more refined state. And that means the refinement of one's body can be higher and higher and higher and higher. So you're working upward, and these are the 2 simanim of a kosher animal. It has to have an element in order for it to be a Jewish animal soul, or that your animal soul should be enveloped in the Jewish experience. A Jew has to be ready and able and willing and driven to be in a constant state of overcoming, the constant state of moving past, once, twice, and never ending. That is now back to the reason that we'll understand now why. Remember I asked right in the beginning of the class, why are Yaakov's angels, when he went to Eretz Yisroel, he only had one pair of angels, either the angels, the Israeli angels, or the non-Israeli angels. They came up, they went down. But now when he went on his way back, he had in one place, and he had both malachim at one time, both sets of angels. And this is the mighty lesson. This is the very deep lesson that's being taught over here. It's talking about the Jew that's already I'm pulling back the word stuck, finds himself kind of overburdened with what? With a physical self, with an earthy self, full of constrictions, full of boundaries. So obviously at the beginning of a Jew's service, you're not going to start challenging the limitations of your neshama. You have to start challenging the limitations of your body, the limitations of your animalistic self. We have to deal with our issues. We have to deal with the stuff that are constricting us, the stuff that are stifling us, the stuff that are choking us. You got to deal with it. So you're working with which kind of angels at the beginning of your life? You're going to produce what kind of malachim? Not the angels of Israel. You're not even in Israel territory yet. You're not in the territory of your soul. You're still in the territory of what? Of Mesopotamia. You're still in Haran. You're dealing with all kinds of traits or habits that if you let them be as they are, they will anger God. You're in an unholy state still. But you begin the service. You're starting. And here's the thing. Even when you're producing non-Israeli angels, that's what we're saying. In other words, the service is one of refinement of the outside of your life, of the unholy elements of your life. It's the refinement of the earthy nature, as we spoke earlier. And it's being driven with what? But it's malachim. What are we saying? Malachei Elokim. What does it mean, malachei Elokim? There is an element of divinity in this service. How is it an element of divinity in this service? Because the underlying oomph in the smallest action of overcoming the definitions that are defining me is not I don't like this or I don't like that. It's a rebellion against the very limitation of the human condition. I'm rebelling against why? Because I know I'm a godly being. So then, even while, and then I know that what? So then you know, here's the thing. Then you know you're never going to reach a point where you're going to be satisfied and you can kick back and say, I've attained, I've reached, now it's time for me to lay back and sip a pina colada on a beach chair. I'm done. Ounce is good. I've arrived. I've gotten rid of every animalistic, physical, earthy desire. I'm living now in a whole spiritual state. I'm good. No. That's if you're looking for human attainment. If you're appreciating the idea what a Jew is, that a Yid is ufaratsta yama v'keid matzafayna v'negna, that a Jew represents the divine, or Jew represents God, that even when you're taking that first step, you're signing up for a lifetime subscription to the gym. Every day you're going to show up and break the habits of no matter where you are. You can be the biggest tzaddik and have the holiest habits. You're going to break those habits as well. That's the idea. And therefore, even when you're standing in Chutz Li'aretz, and you have the angels of Chutz Li'aretz, you're not even dealing at all with the angels of Eretz Yisrael. The angels of Eretz Yisrael are already there. They're already there. Because in potential, it's there already. That's the chiddush. The novelty is that you have both sets of angels at the very starting point. Because the way you're jumping into the service is the service of I'm a Jew. And I can take this all the way. No matter where I am, no matter what it is. I'm not going to be the super tzaddik immediately. But one thing is for sure, I'm never going to be a satisfied person. When I will be the super tzaddik, I will never be satisfied with super tzaddik. No matter where we are, we're always never going to move in state, be stagnant and be comfortable. That's not a Jew. Moving past and moving past and moving past. So what happens after this encounter? What does Yaakov do? And this is going to bring it all together with number 8, as we said in the beginning. What does Yaakov do after the work in Chutz Li'aretz? After he's already called the name of the place. And remember we said earlier, this has such impact, not only on you, this that you set yourself out with that attitude and you're producing these angels and you're bringing these malachim. In other words, you're tapping into this angelic force that's beyond human, just with pure, what is this really all about? It's pure, what do they call it? Drive or no, will, there's a word for it. Willpower. It's the willpower, but it's the willpower of the soul. The willpower of the neshama that is activated. Once you have that what that produces, as we spoke, is all these angels, that impacts the world around us. That's something that needs to be appreciated and understood. The nature of the world, the nature of physics change. To know that. This is what we can't to remember that this is very deeply related. The nature of physics change. The nature of the cosmos. Our positioning ourselves in the universe creates a shift and a change. This kind of an attitude of devotion and dedication, that's limitlessness to an infinite goal that we can never reach, that's the point, creates a flow of energy into the world that's infinite and really changes nature itself. And therefore, what happens after Yaakov names the place Malachei Elokim, divine power, not natural power? What happens? He takes these malachim, these angels, and he sends them to Esav. And what does he cause when he sends them to Esav? Esav is coming against him with 400 men, and suddenly the most amazing thing happens. Esav, who is plagued by the most one of the natural forces that there is in existence, natural phenomenon in existence, but what is the most evil of natural forces within the world that is embedded in the very nature of existence. And what is that? Anti-Semitism. Esav hates Yaakov. What happens? Because Yaakov unleashes in his service, in his boundless service, he unleashes the power of the supernatural to impact the world. What happens to his brother Esav? When he meets him, Esav is a complete turnaround. Esav is completely transformed, and he becomes his ally, he becomes his friend, he hugs him, and the two of them are ready for Mashiach. So we know the sages tell us that the non-kosher animals we were talking about are four that we have to make. There are 4 types of non-kosher animals. It tells us there is a camel, a rabbit, a hare, and a pig. And the 4 non-kosher animals are referring to the 4 exiles. Babylonia is one, the Greeks are another one, Persia is the other one, and the last one is Edom, Esav. Esav is compared to the pig. And the pig is called Chazir. Why is he called Chazir? Because it's going to turn around. The Chazir is going to convert. The Chazir is going to have a transformation, is going to become an ally to holiness. How does it happen? Because Yaakov sends the angels to him and Yaakov converts him. Like you see in the story of Yaakov and Esav, he converts him. And this is referring to the end of days, that which is the most opposing to holiness will turn around. That's opposite of nature. That's the opposite of nature. What does Yitzchak tell Esav? What's your nature? You will live by your sword. You'll be a murderer. And you'll hate your brother. Now, Yitzchak didn't tell that to him, but you see, he says you'll be in conflict with your brother. That's who he is. To flip Esav around is unbelievable. But what does that mean? Your infinite service impacts the world. It impacts the most darkest things in the world to transform them as well. And that's where we're standing right now. We're standing right now at the point where we see Esav of Edom himself is getting a complete makeover. It's turning around. As I pointed out so many times, the miracle of what's happening in front of our eyes, that from amidst the anti-Semitism, from amidst the world that wants to stop Mashiach, there is suddenly a complete shift and a turnover that's still creating so much tension. And so this is the tension that there is in the world right now, is from the transformation of Esav from Chazir to become kosher. It doesn't say he stops being a Chazir, doesn't mean it becomes the most refined being, but in his unrefinement becomes what? The biggest ally towards holiness. This is a miracle. This is the miracle of the Geula. This came as a result and as a consequence of Yaakov's malachim. But what are the Yaakov's malachim? Yaakov's angels represent a devotion to service of Hashem that transcends your natural self. What does it have to do with the month of Kislev, of Pnimius Torah? Let's just conclude. And I forgot to come back to that. It's related because Yaakov, from all of our forefathers, Yaakov's service to Hashem is the service of Torah. Avram represents serving God with love. Yitzchak represents serving God with fear. And Yaakov's service is Tiferes, which Tiferes is Torah. Yaakov studies Torah. So, but there's two Torahs. Remember I said earlier? There is the Torah given in the summer, and the Torah that's given in the winter. And I said earlier, the Torah in the summer is the revealed Torah. Torah in the winter is the hidden Torah. But there's another difference which is really related to the difference, same difference. The Torah of the winter, of the summer, is a Torah that comes easy. The summer months in general is a lot of daytime, a little bit of nighttime. It's a lot of godly revelation. It's Torah that's given to us. Illumination comes. Torah of the winter means learning Torah, breaking yourself when you're learning Torah. Sages say the reason we have nighttime is for Torah study. Now, obviously, nighttime is for Torah study. Nighttime is when your body gets tired and you want to sleep. But when you're learning Torah at night, you're breaking yourself. And Rambam says a person will not learn most of his Torah only at night. Nighttime represents not just Torah study, but learning Torah with diligence and learning more than what you're accustomed to. So, in practice, okay, very good. What does that have to do with everything we spoke about? But here's breaking nature is what we spoke about. But Torah, which we think is just an inward experience that the Jewish people have for themselves, Torah influences the world. Torah changes the world. The Torah is associated with number 3 because Torah comes to make peace in the world. Hashem is 1, the world is 2, Torah is number 3. It facilitates unity and harmony. It merges, it's the merger, it's the connector, it's the unifier. And the pasuk says that when a Yid Talmidei Chachamim, those who study Torah, bring peace to the world, because it says V'rav Shalom Banayach. Your children make a lot of peace. But the Alter Rebbe says, what does it mean, V'rav Shalom? Rav is Esav. Esav says about himself, I have a lot. Esav is Rav. The idea of learning Torah is that it takes Rav, it takes even Esav, and it converts him to what? It converts even Esav to become an ally of Kedusha. So what does that lead us to? The idea of changing the world for good. Number 1, you should know that you do it in your own house. You don't have to do it outside. You actually accomplish it through overcoming your nature, by being driven and becoming a conduit for this infinite godly energy in the world. That's the transforming power. But what does, in particularly, it's referring to the study of Torah. And when you study Torah, but study Torah with diligence, when we all take upon ourselves to learn a little bit more Torah than we're used to, an extra 5 minutes, an extra hour, an extra half an hour, whatever it is, everybody according to their limit, that, the Alter Rebbe says somewhere in Chassidus, I'm going to conclude with this, he says that when Torah is called Torah, it's miloshen hayra, it directs. So you say this Torah comes to separate. This is kosher, this is not kosher. This animal is kosher, this animal is not. This meat is kosher, this is not. But the Alter Rebbe says, but what does Torah do? So many times, when you're studying, it seems like something is not permitted. And then because you apply deeper and deeper and deeper, and you dig and you dig and you dig, till you discover how that which you thought is not permitted is really kosher and it is permitted. And getting to the depths of Allah. So he says that has cosmic impact in the world. Those dark stuff in the world that look like they're always going to be dark and they're always going to be antithetical to holiness, magically they transform. And we have no idea, how did this country or this people or this guy, I don't know, let's say Kim Jong-un, how is he ever going to become a mensch? How is he ever going to enter into Mashiach's world? I don't know. So far he didn't do tshuva yet. Is Iran ever going to turn over? Do we know? What do we know? Can it happen? Can they overthrow the government and suddenly become the biggest ally? According to one medrash, the Chazer is actually Paras, Iran. It could happen. All we need is good Torah study. Good, that's what the Rebbe says, good Torah study that dictates, that investigates, that finds, but yet you can only come up with such understanding of Torah when what? When you learn Torah beyond your limits. So what's the lesson of Chodesh Kislev? The lesson of Chodesh Kislev is each and every, take upon yourself to break your boundaries regarding Torah study. You can all start. That's why I gave a little bit of a longer share today, so everybody will break their boundaries regarding Torah study. But even more than that, you can all join on Thursday night when we learn Pnimiyus HaTorah. And then we break everybody's boundaries, because we learn past all limitations. That's the idea. This is the chance. This is the chance to be Ein Sof, to be limitless, to challenge. How did we start that class? We started it because I once said, 10 years ago, I said, who says we can't learn for 4 hours straight? Who decided that? Let's do it. And we did it. And it's 11 years later, or 12 years, not more, 17 years later. And we've done it every Thursday. But the truth is it's already limited. We have to go for more. Beyond limitation, beyond boundaries. That's the power. That's the power of the Ein Sof. May the Eibishter help that we should, all this limitless light and limitless godliness should break down the last barriers of the exile. May we see already the full revelation of Mashiach Tzidkenu, which the revelation of Mashiach Tzidkenu is also here. It should only open up our eyes that we should see the revelation, because the revelation is here as well. May we see it now, and now.